Joanna, thank you for being with us here today. Can you share a bit about your creative process for writing and developing the characters in the series?
Yeah, so I think these characters ultimately, although they live in a surreal and heightened version of reality, it is a cartoon. Um, they are based off reality. They are based off, on ourselves, the writers, on on people that we've seen in our lives. Ultimately, we wanted to ground the characters within this sort of fantastical world. Um, the creative process, I think, involves a lot of openness to new ideas and never saying no to an idea. And I think a lot of the best episodes that came out of this were when people came in with an idea that was almost too absurd that we were like, there's no way to make work, but we yes anded, which is a term in improv, which is that you never say no, you always say yes and you add something. And you add, these ideas that seemed almost impossible, we yes anded to a point where it's become some of the strongest episodes, in my opinion. So I think it's juggling a the groundedness of the characters and making the characters feel relatable and feel like they're real while really pushing the boundaries to what can be done in the circumstances that they're put in and saying yes and to any crazy idea that was brought up in the writer's room.
What inspired the unique concept of a girl and her hamster gaining superpowers from aliens?
So the show creator Dan Povenmire, it was in the middle of lockdown, and he created a 16-minute little, cartoon in his spare time where this happened. And it all stemmed from his daughter's having a hamster, and I think he was feeling kind of stuck at home. And so it was sort of like a dream, right? Like what happens when a boring day becomes a remarkable day. Um, and that remarkable day comes with a disappointment, which is that, the oldest brother of this trio of the hamster, little sister, and big brother, the big brother doesn't get powers. It's the two least likely people to get the, well, I wouldn't say people, two least likely characters get the powers. um so it's a, yeah, I think it came from the limitations, I think, of lockdown, and then it spurred and grew into what it is now.
Um, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced while working on the series, and how did you overcome them?
Well, I'd say that this series was started in 2020, and we were all in different parts of the world, and we had to create a cohesive show with people not going into an office. And we all had to feel like we were a team when we were in different time zones and everything. And I think that we did it successfully because we had such a passion for what the show is. Um, and I think the although that was the biggest challenge, I think it became the easiest thing to work as a team. We worked very hard to make sure our team was a well-oiled machine, that everyone was heard, because a show like this is not an individual's outcome. It's the outcome of dozens of people putting their grain of sand into it. And so, the biggest hurdle, I think, became the biggest strength.
How was your collaboration with the rest of the team, including Dan?
Oh my gosh, Dan is a very good friend of mine. We connected about 10 years ago when I was doing online videos at Flama, which was Univision's YouTube platform that was in English. And we connected. He really loved my stuff. I obviously loved his stuff. And we started a friendship where he sort of became a mentor for me. And so when this opportunity came about and he wanted to offer me the job, I kind of couldn't believe it. But he was like, "Hey, I've seen you work for 10 years. That's all I need to know." And so he sort of became my champion in this, because I even doubted myself, and I doubted if I could, head write an animated show. I had never written for an animated show before. Um, so that openness and that trust, I think I brought also to the writer's room and the rest of the team, trusting that other people may have better ideas than you, trusting other people's opinions, trusting that a team is better than an individual, and believing in each other, which I know sounds cringy, but it's true. So I'd say that the collaboration and the teamwork of this show has been my greatest joy.
What has the audience reaction been so far? And can you share any feedback that that was memorable for you?
Well, I think people really love that this is, this exists in the Dan uh universe. It is sort of adjacent to Phineas and Ferb, but has its own perspective and own tone. It's a little bit more emotional. It's a little bit more family oriented. Well, I mean, I know Phineas and Ferb is hugely family oriented, but we see a lot of characters from these characters from different cultures. So we see the Latin element be an incredibly important element in the show. Um, I think a lot of people have resonated with that, the way that we've represented Latin culture, the way that we've represented it in a way that makes people feel seen. And I think a lot of people are shocked at how, yes, kids, this is a kid show, but there's a lot of jokes that are there for just the adults. So it is truly a co-viewing experience where it's almost like there's two simultaneous shows playing at the same time.
And now this next one you already answered, or at least in part another answers you gave, but I'm gonna go ahead and answer read it out anyway. How much of your own personality and experiences do you infuse into the characters and stories?
I think that a writing and being a good writer is obviously being able to put yourself in another person's shoes, but a lot of ideation comes from personal experience and thinking as you're, reading a script, like, would this character do this? Would this character do that? And I think that comes from a lot of introspection. Um, I infuse a lot of myself into the writing, not because it's something I consciously do, but it's just something I think all writers sort of subconsciously do. Um, Not only infusing, you know, and all the writers are the same in this, but infusing our humor, what we find funny, our culture. I think, half of the writers' room is Latino, and we really made an effort to infuse different perspectives and point of view in that culture in several episodes. But also just like how we felt growing up, how difficult it was, what were the challenges, what did crushes feel like when we were in high school? Like these characters have to feel grounded. And the only way they feel grounded is if you do a gut check and say, like, how would I feel here? And I think that that groundedness comes from always filtering things through how you would feel and then altering and changing that depending on that character, but everything needs to go through your gut.
And to wrap it up, are there any exciting developments or story arcs that we can look forward to?
I think this season has significantly more story arcs than season one. A lot of things happen. There's a lot of changes that happen with our characters. Our characters are put in situations that are honestly absurd and situations that a lot of our audience was asking for. So we listened and we incorporated that. And so I think people are going to be very surprised and very shocked to see where this season goes.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Recording. I just got a text from Nancy.